joined by Darren Ambrose this morning of D&J Ambrose. Morning, Darren.
Hi guys,
who
Jayne.
literally just gave me a heart attack because I said, right, 1 minute warning, and he went, yes, I'll be back, and disappeared and left me with a blank wall. Literally, I've got the shakes. I said, what are you doing?
You got a clammy palm.
I have got a clammy palm. So anyway, thanks, Darren, for that. So where to start with you? A multi-award winning salon owner, session hairdresser, do a lot of trend work globally for Weller professionals. So it would be wrong not to start and acknowledge the situation that the world finds itself in with the pandemic, but also hairdressing. So how is it going with you for you and the team?
I think it's like anybody, all of us guys out there and salon owners and staff and just generally the industry. I think right at the beginning, it's kind of surreal. You didn't think it would be, or get to this point as we are now. And I think we were putting things in place right at the beginning, as we always do, and we always do as an industry, like washing the hands, like cleanliness within the salon, which is paramount, and things like that. But then it became a lot more prevalent of what we needed to do. And then obviously the lockdown. And I think at the beginning, we were just in a bit of shock as to how this had become, global. I mean, it's kind of crazy. It's like a new norm of what, like what me and you are doing now. It's kind of weird, right? We're all using our devices a lot more.
We're at home, which is unusual.
Yeah, like home stuff going on. And it's crazy, but it's a great way to link. I just think, on hindsight, I think we needed to have, maybe if we had a lockdown, to lock down properly. I think, it's great what's happening, but I think we need to adhere and abide by the rules, get it done, get it dusted, and let's all get back to normal or some form of normality.
So you saw
we're seeing things that are happening that, may prolong it, and it's just selfish behaviour, really.
So you're referring, there was a BBC News report, for those that didn't see it, where they were phoning around barbershops, and I think 19 of the 50 called offered a service.
Yeah. I mean, it's just bang out of order, really. I get it if you're thinking about money and things like that, but it's a selfish act, because what you're doing is you're putting, jeopardy to making this a longer process. People, the higher government and bodies coming down harder, maybe saying, right, that is it. Our industry is locked down for longer. Ireland, bless them. If you look at the Ireland guys, the Irish guys, until July. I mean, it's kind of crazy. That would be absurd, wouldn't it, really? And I think for a lot of businesses as well, if you're financially okay, and we're doing furlough and we've got grants and there's things put in place, and eventually when that came in force, it's cool, but it's worrying because at the time it wasn't a quick process. Because a lot of these government states and the councils, they hadn't got the infrastructure for that. Straight away. It's a thing that we'd been thrown into like lions to a den. So,
and also you, and I would imagine as company directors, you fall, like so many salon owners, you fall through that gap, don't you?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, it's disgusting. I think it depends on, it's always about how you pay yourself and how structures are structured within a company. But if you're on dividends and things like that, you fall through the net. You don't get anything. We've had no pay at all. And I probably, like a lot of you guys out there, a lot of the industry, salon owners and people, they're exactly the same. And it is heartbreaking and frustrating. And for some people, if you're in, maybe, I don't know, how you run your finances, it could be jeopardizing of the business.
Yeah.
It's a scary, it's just that side of it is scary, but so therefore going back to the question of people doing their thing and being selfish in that way, if you get found or caught and there's fines, quite right. But
it's
all you're doing is you're going to prolong it.
Absolutely. And also, there are many people who want to see sick and dying relatives and can't even do that. So, the world can wait. I mean, I've made a joke every time I've done one of these about what's going on up here and the fact my fringe is now slightly to the, but, people just going to have to wait. We just need to learn some patience.
Yeah. Exactly. You do. You have to sort of, you have to wait. And I think at the end of the day, right, as creatives, we've been blessed in this industry because it is an amazing industry. And the
Yeah,
one
it is.
thing that we do, everybody out there, everybody that's in the industry, is create something for a client, an image. And in any
Yeah.
business, image is really important. It creates the persona of a person.
Yeah.
And, you know, whether you're doing that now, whether we do that in 6 months' time or 3 months' time or a month's time, they're going to need us again. And it's that moment that, you know, you'll
Yeah.
be flooded with all
Absolutely.
those people with waist length or bum length hair
Yeah.
coming in and having it whacked off
Yeah.
and doing your thing. So,
Yeah.
you know,
I'd
it's
just
going
like
to
to say,
happen
mine
again.
never
We're
gets
going to
that
get back to
long.
normal. They were?
Mine never gets that long, does it?
No. Yeah.
Tony Puccio saying that, you know, and he's right, we need to think of the greater good. And there's, you know, other people, Tina Morgan saying it's awful. And she's absolutely right. I mean, none of us want to be locked in. Nobody likes it, but it's not a choice. It's an absolute necessity for the safety of everybody. And to be fair, it's not just this industry. Every industry is affected by this.
It's in the same boat.
Yeah. How are you keeping in touch with customers and clients? Are you?
Well, I think just keeping in touch in general with clients, we go back to the company, we go back to the salon quite regularly. Jayne, that deals with our sort of PA and all the front of house stuff, we contact them personally. We regularly update them on the scenario, as they already know anyway, you know, government reports. Yeah. And then we just move accordingly, the appointments. But what we do is we stagger them. And what she's done is staggered them so that not more than so many people are in at the same time.
Right.
I think allowing obviously enough to get in the door.
Yeah.
But being sensible about the placement of the person within the company, you know, including staff, our guys, and the client.
So obviously, we don't know what the rulings are going to be about salons, because there's lots of people saying, are we going to need screens? What's the PPE? We don't know what's going to be asked of us, but you've obviously already started thinking about that.
Yeah, I mean, Jack's been amazing. She's totally on, she's working with a HR guy that works for us, and she's, you know, with the government reports and things like that. Yeah. And we've already bought masks for the staff, sanitizers. You know, we've sort of looked into doing shift work, hour work, so that we're not all in there together, maybe to begin with. I mean, to be really honest, like what you were saying, I think at the beginning we don't know how they're gonna loosen us up and bleed us into normality again. Mm-hmm. So it might be 3 days a week, 2 days a week, 4 days a week. You know what I mean?
You just don't know.
I think if you just get your strategies in place, and then you can go forward with it, you know, and maybe see what happens. As long as you're covered and you've got things sorted, then it should be fine. And I think just protecting your staff. I mean, my guys, they're great. You know, we keep in contact on WhatsApp. We've got a group. Yeah, and I bet that's fun. Languages: Afrikaans, French, Spanish. You know what I mean? We've got funny things going on. I mean, it's a joke. It's just keeping connected. Yeah. But also, I mean, I think for business owners, you know, your guys that work with you are so important. We love them to death, and I think it's very paramount that their safety is good too.
Well, they become your family, don't they? I mean, I know at your salon.
We always say it's like Big Brother.
It is like Big Brother. I can vouch for that. You know what I mean?
Like when you're in a company like that, you're just working constantly. You see them more than your friends or your family sometimes. You know, it's 24/7, isn't it? So
yeah, it is.
You know, we miss them. It's great. You know, you have a good fun, good laugh. It's good.
And I think one thing that we've noticed is that the industry seems to have really pulled together. So there's been a lot of sharing. I know there's lots of groups, like WhatsApp groups between salon owners that Gary and Michael were talking about when I spoke to them last week. And people being really honest and sharing. And actually, there is a whole piece to this, that the whole mental well-being of people, because it's just a situation that we have never experienced in our lifetime, and hopefully we'll never experience again.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, you know, if you look back at, was it the Spanish flu and swine flu and things like that? Who would have said we'd be living this moment now? But I think what it does do, I think in a positive, you know, with what we're going through in a positive, you tend to look at things that we became selfish about, or I don't know, if you have time to reflect, because actually you've been really busy since we've been off, but if you reflect on it, I think things were going so fast and furious and just out of hand. It's sometimes when you pull back and you have got time to connect with people, you know, like yourself and like all the other amazing icons and industry people, you know, there's things out there that you just come back to earth. You know, you're down onto a grounded level, and it's cool. It's good.
And I think it's about not taking people for granted. You hopefully will learn the lessons about not taking people for granted and keeping family and friends close. I think that's because it's only when you can't see them that you realise how much you miss them and you need them, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think so. Exactly.
You know, and I think the industry bodies have done a fab job. I mean, Hilary from the NHBF has been fantastic. I think you've seen the Colette Osborne's been doing Salon Owners United, which is brilliant. Fellowship, morning Simon Shaw saying good morning to us. He's been doing a huge amount with the fellowship, and I think it's been really good to see them, everybody at whatever level they're at, sharing experiences, education, and just real life. Actually,
I think actually, to be quite honest, I mean, I think with you guys, and I think with a lot of the magazines, I think with the Fellowship of British Hairdressing, I think a lot of the industry supporting funds and groups that get together. It's always been there. It's always been very supportive. But I think in this time, what it's done is it's become a lot more open. You know, there's not so much maybe pretense in everything. It's a bit more real, you know?
No, I get that.
I think there's a lot of things, or people tend to then talk about situations that are more real life and real basic things that we all go through and all love or we don't like or whatever. So it's a good thing. It's great.
So we've had one question from a lady called Ruth Duncan saying, when we go back to work, are we going to get information where to get PPE? Just to say that we are pulling as much information together as we can about where PPE will be available from. But as I've said, at the moment, none of us know what that PPE requirement is going to be. But I know that the manufacturers are working on that. We're certainly pulling a list together. I know the Hair and Beauty Suppliers Association are pulling a list together. So there will be information for people about where to get what they may need going forward.
I think definitely. I mean, I think in some cases the government have been quite slow on certain things, and then other things they've been kind of on it. So it's also that process that we're in a bit of a mixed up world, aren't we? We don't know what's going to happen and what's going to go on. But I know for us, we went on to the internet. We got it all quite early. I think if you get in there, get the fundamental essentials of what you think, like the obvious, like the gloves, the touching things, your masks, sanitizers, things like that. And then basically, if there's anything that's added to the requirements, you know, we can get on it, or even if they're given to us, if we're lucky enough.
No. So you run a massively busy salon. But you also spend an enormous amount of time traveling normally. So this is probably the longest you've ever been at home. Forever, I would imagine. How do you split your time? How do you split and manage that time?
Well, do you know what? It's a really good question. I think for loads of people, loads of us in the industry out there, it's probably one of the toughest things. I'm really, really lucky to have an amazing partner like Jackie. Because when I'm doing the show side, all right, Jack. When I'm doing the show side, she's 100% bang on in the company. And with Jack, she deals with a lot of the financial side of things. You know, I think as company directors, you go in your paths, don't you? You
find your niche.
What you're feeling. And as much as she is an amazing creative person and a brilliant stylist, because she does all the clothes and stuff for the company, she's also very good financially, unlike myself. So we leave that one to her because she's got more of the brain up there. And so when we go and do shows, yes, my thing is to get on that with show planning and kind of like the creation of it, the music mixes, things like that. And then we travel. It is really difficult, but I think like anything like that, you need to have a good front of house so that when you're away, your company is running successfully, i.e. your clients and your clientele is being moved or booked in sufficiently when they require. And generally my clients, like, they're so amazing, like very loyal, and they'll kind of always wait until I come back, or sometimes, you know, they'll go in with the other guys as well. They're happy to do that, which is amazing. But it is tough.
So when you get a brief, how do you start the planning? Because I mean, I've had the privilege of seeing some of your shows around the world and in the UK. How do you start? I'm sure people will be interested. How do you start that whole creative process to get to that end?
Well, for me, I think it depends on what you're doing. If it's something that we're doing for ourselves as a company, we will in our house, right? Sometimes we've got a room full of textiles and clothes, like where we've collected as a company over the years. Now, for me, sometimes I tend to throw myself headfirst into that, plant myself on the floor, and just look at everything, right? And you can get amazing inspiration from fabric and things like that. And then it's about research, like normal things, Pinterest, internet. Get your stories, go out on the streets, look at people, see how people kind of put things together that are really not right, but it is right. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like the undone is the new norm, isn't it? You know, like it's not too perfect. And you get inspiration. I think sitting and watching people is amazing. We all do it, you know? It's like...
This is an industry of people watchers.
Yeah, industry of people watchers. So when I got that, then I tend to start sketching everything in characters. And I put it into characters and then descriptive words. So every person in the show is a persona, is a person that creates or to create something, and then it goes from there. If you're working on campaigns like I've been really blessed and lucky enough to do quite a few of those for Weller. Then you're working with an art director, and Rainer, normally from Wello, he would give you a brief, and that brief is then sort of dissected into fashion, lifestyle, you know, and colorations, Pantones and things like that. And then you have to work with that and come up with your desired character or the type of person that's going to be living it, and it's more consumer. So yeah, it's great fun. It's interesting.
Do you use the same process when you're doing photographic collections? For example, when you've shot for British, do you use that the same process?
100%. Or every time. Like, I mean, working with Jenny, I've done a lot of work with Jenny Hands, photographer. And obviously Jack is really good to bounce off of. It's having that creative mind where you can start talking about something, and then things start sparking off of it, and you create a story. It's like anything's a story. It's a storyboard. So back onto Pinterest, back onto kind of like research eras, you know, hair movement, texture, color, all that stuff. And then I just write everything down in a massive book and sketch. And then I do Pantone colors to it, and then start working out my storyboard for the shoot. And then putting it all together so that you've got that collection of 8. I mean, I know for British it's normally 8. And the same was when I was doing the regions and things like that. Exactly the same process. So it's you know, set in place really. And I think what it does for you then is on your mind, you know exactly what you're doing. So the money you're spending on your shoot, you're actually you're on it. You're not wasting money, you know, because time's money on shoots.
So you're spending it in the right place.
On the right place, but also you're focused and you're in the right mindset. So if something, inevitably on a shoot day, you might set out to do something and then all of a sudden it doesn't happen. So you've just creatively got to work it in another way, but you've generally got your storyboard to follow.
I mean, you've personally been hugely successful in the awards, and you've also helped your teams and previous team members to become hugely successful with the hairdressing awards. Do you have a personal favourite win?
For myself?
Yeah, for you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, yes, I do actually. I was just thinking back then. I mean, there's so many moments, right? I think if anyone out there, right, in the industry has been blessed enough to win an award, you know what the feeling's like. You know what it's like. So all of them have been amazing. But I think probably one of the first ones I entered, I was 22 and I entered newcomer. And I remember I was working with Terry Calvert at the time.
Oh,
and I
Terry.
went up to Terry, right? And I said, I've got an idea. I want to enter the British Hairdressing Awards. And he said, really? Show me then. What have you got? Because he was an amazing guy, right, Terry?
Yeah,
and he taught me a lot of things where I had to prove I was worthy of him investing in me to do that job.
Absolutely.
So I had to show him a mood board, which goes back to kind of planning. He taught me a lot of things in that way, and Jack, right? It was great.
Yeah.
So anyway, showed him this thing, and I had the privilege of working on the back of his shoot. He was shooting as well. And we created these images, me and Jack. Jack did the styling, I did the hair, we booked the models. And I remember getting through, and we were like, I mean, seriously made up at 22. First time you've entered the British Hairdressing Awards, right? And you are blown away, And anyway, we go to the big night, and we weren't earning a lot of money then. I mean, it was times when, as a junior, I think we were earning £25 a week.
Yeah.
That makes me now about 90. So don't work out the math. Right?
The work's looking great.
I know. Harley Street. Amazing. Anyway, so we go earning about £25 a week, and Jack goes down to World's End, Vivian Westwood, right? And she buys one of her crutch tartan minis, right? Honest. And we use it now. We've used it now. It's vintage.
Oh, I love it.
And it was the beginning. It cost us £600. It was the beginning of the realization of fashion and what Vivi. I mean, I love her to death, right? What she does. But that shot was mind blowing. Anyway, so we turned up at this thing, kind of like all dolled up, sat at this table as you do, totally like everything over your head, because you're like 22. I didn't even have a clue. It was all a bit mind blowing. You know what I mean? And then obviously the category came up, and when they mentioned the name, this is God's honest truth, right? Have you ever seen someone cry with joy, but the tears like come out of their eyes, like in vertical? That was Mrs. A, Jack.
Oh, was it?
Honest to God, right? They just spurted out, and I could not believe it. But from that day, the whole process of the journey and winning it was so amazing, and the realization of how powerful the industry is, and when we all get together like that, it's such an incredible career. You know, regardless of whether you win or not, it was just the gathering and about what it's about and what we do as people, as creatives. It was incredible.
So Tony Pucci's saying, where did you train, and who has been your major influence?
Well, I trained with Terry Calvert
at Clipso.
Yeah, I left school at 17. At the time, then he had his shop in Covent Garden. In Neal Street, and I worked up there for quite a bit. And there was a guy there that worked for him called Michael Wong, and Michael Wong, right? But he was absolutely off his head, creative genius. He was amazing, like totally expressive, really non-conformist. So he taught us all the fundamental basics, amazing basics of everything. You know, colouring. You know, we used to do all the chopstick perms, winding. You know, all the bits and pieces going on, all the fundamental basics, and then we kind of just worked through that, and basically gave us the best training ever. You know, and I think a lot of things of what Terry did as well when we got older and we got on the artistic team was set the precedents of how to plan things out and keeping attention to detail. So yeah, I mean, that was really cool, really amazing. And
I mean, you do, as you say, a lot of campaign stuff, which is really creative. How then can hairdressers take that? Because I think some people, there's maybe a slight disconnect between what they see on the runways and how they translate that into, you know, someone comes into the salon. How do you do that?
How do you dissect it?
Water it down, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it's like, you know, we're quite opinionated characters, creatives. And I think whenever you see it, it's like if you go to Fashion Week, London Fashion Week, if you see what's being presented, a lot of the designers, if it goes to haute couture, it's a lot more over structured, and there's something about it that's a bit surreal. And people would often say, well, how could you wear that? You'd never wear that. You'd never buy it. But obviously, from a visual, amazing, love it to death. But then what you see is the pret-a-porter versions have been watered down to a much more streamlined, body-fitting, more beautiful example of what you can wear on the high street. And it's exactly the same as what we do as creatives with hair. When you do a show, 9 times out of 10, sometimes these people come to see the show, want to see something that they haven't seen before, like designers, like in fashion, like in anything. So you tend to make it more powerful, bigger,
bolder,
more expressive. And then what happens is those tiny elements could be a color placement, could be the way, I don't know, the bob's cut or long hair has been layered or whatever it is, translates down to pret-a-porter in the salon. And I found actually a lot of people used to say to me, when you do avant-garde, what's the point? It's a waste of money. You know, why are you spending the money on avant-garde? It's so creative. Who's going to wear it? Who's going to use it? Actually, I have to say, back in the time when I was lucky enough to win avant-garde, some of those placements in the window used to bring attraction to people. And we actually got a lot of colour work from it. Because I think if you go beyond, if you step outside the box and see it for what it is and how it's been executed, it shows craftsmanship with that company. So therefore, you know, if you go in and you're real people, you can get what you want.
What would you say to kind of assistants and, you know, trainees now? What's the best bit of advice you could give them to kind of grow, progress?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like a lot of things, right? We've had a lot of trouble with trainees coming into the industry. I think
lack of numbers.
Actual numbers, and I think what with the government and pushing, you know, universities and all that stuff, which that side's great. It's another story. But I would say to the guys that are coming in, you know, you need to find the best foundation, best training center, academy, a company that you can possibly have for you, that gives you the best fundamental basic training. And then when you get inside that company, I would source out and shadow the perfect creative person. Watch with your eyes, look all the time. Stay off your phones, keep your phones for your breaks. And you're, you know, doing all your thing, it's cool. But stay in that salon and feel the vibe and watch the people create. Because if you listen, keep focused and watch everything around you, I tell you what, if you've got it in you and you master the longevity of the training and you become a stylist, you've got the most amazing career ahead of you, because it enables you to tap into so many things, you know, you would not believe. And the salon is an amazing environment for people and for us as staff and for clients. It's a feel-good factor.
It is.
And you'll get to a point where it's grueling and you want to give up, right? It's normal because it is hard work. You know, you've got to be a grafter. But if you master that and you keep focused, you're on it. You'll be a winner.
No, it's a great piece of advice. What's the best bit of advice you've ever been given?
To listen.
Who was that? Parent?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. To listen.
Was it?
Yeah, I remember they said to me, just why don't you listen? You're always so rebellious. You're doing your own thing and doing all this stuff. You know what I mean? You know, as a kid, you know, as you want to do. I suppose it was to keep your. Sometimes I think we can be very, as creatives, in our own box where we think only of ourselves, and what we do is the right way, and that's it. Whereas I think what you learn over the years is actually to step outside that box and listen to people, because sometimes what we find from other people, you can take good. You might not like everything, but some things there are good to take on board and may, you know, improve your situation, improve your direction, improve whatever. So I think it was more about, letting people in, have a listen to whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we could talk all day, and there are loads of questions coming in. What would you tell your 18-year-old self?
Well, that's a good one. Don't know, really. Do you know what? I've got no regrets on anything.
That's great.
I think I would say to my 18-year-old self, I think back in the time you may have had more doubt.
Yeah.
I would say don't doubt, like focus in and get on with it, because it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's going to, never any regrets. I think everything in life is an experience to a certain degree. And then in business, you learn all the time. We don't stop learning.
Yeah, keep learning.
You know, and I think it's just one of those things that as an 18-year-old, you maybe feel like you were a bit reckless. We had some mental times, but it would be maybe to keep more focused as well.
Yeah. Okay. So just to wrap up, there's been a lot of chatter. Sarah Marshall saying the message feed is, and it is, there's a lot of people asking about PPE. I think the reason we did discuss it, but actually we can't tell people what they need to do when they return and how they can keep their team and clients safe, because until the government give us the guidelines, nobody knows for sure. I mean, there is no doubt there will be changes to how you work, and every salon and hairdresser in the country works, whether they're salon based or freelance. What I would say is that as soon as the stuff is out Sunday, I know the NHBF and we will be reporting on that, where people can get the PPE that they're going to be needing, what advice to give to people. And I understand it's a really anxious time for people about when and how they go back. But
it is. And I think the government are going to be the ones that set that in place. But I think you could also think of, if you're going to sell refreshments, if you're going to do refreshments, then it's plastic or paper cups, throwaway towels, or nothing at all. Keep it just very simple, nothing at all. You know,
well, we as HJ have actually put together some guidelines that I'm gonna, and they're not government guidelines clearly, but they're just things that people could be thinking about. So if there's anybody on the feed or the Facebook feed that wants to have a look at those, they're really just to get people thinking about the steps that we think you might have to take. Email me directly, and it's Jayne, JAYNE @hji.co.uk. And we'll send them out if people ask for them to have a look. But as I say, until the announcements on Sunday, and we know I feel it's dangerous to speculate. There's been a lot of speculation about we're opening on the 11th of May. No, it's 6 months. No, it's July. Nobody knows until the announcement is made and we see what the government rollout is. So we have to sit tight for another 3 days, which is hugely frustrating. But like you've said, people are already starting to think about timings, scheduling clients, not having a busy, working at a less capacity, longer opening hours, potentially Sundays. We just have to wait and see. But salon owners and stylists and freelancers, I think, should be thinking about how they can plan in their business, for their business, and what works for them, their team, and their customers. Because ultimately, we have to stay safe. So. And I think your advice has been hugely appreciated, and the keep learning message is, really critical. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I can't wait to see you in person for so many reasons, Darren Ambrose.
I know. Look at that badge. You're rocking it though. It's like what Mark Hayes said. You do look like Blondie.
I wish that, an old Blondie.
I love Blondie. She's great. Lovely.
Oh, thank you. So take care. See you soon, Darren. Cheers. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.